On today's episode, we're going to be talking about our top 5 video games of all time. I'm Ben Cornelius.
And I'm Curtis Mays, and this is Player 1 versus Player 2. On today's show, we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing a list show.
Me and Curtis throughout the week have been compiling our own list of what we think as the 5 greatest games of all time.
What did you use to rate your games? I mean, what system did you
They
use?
had to be games that really did something in the video game industry to like kind of change the way things were made. They also had to be games that a lot of people loved or played, and they just had to be good overall games that were enjoyable.
I used gameplay effects. I used, gameplay back then, if the game's old or even new, and if it's lasted. Because a game can be really fun when you start playing it, and then it can go to total shit. And when Soul Blade came out for the PS1, it was a fun game. When Tekken 1 came out for PS1, it's a fun game. But you wouldn't go back and play those same games now unless you're a diehard Tekken or Soul Blade fan, because those games age. The gameplay ages, or they're just upstaged by better games. I used the music, the graphics, all the aesthetic stuff, of course. Storyline, if applicable. And then I used kind of the same thing you did, which I kind of use a evolution/revolution aspect. Okay, did this game change the way we look at video games today? Or did it do it, and then another game came along and did the same thing but made it better?
Let's get to it. My top 5 is Warcraft for the PC. It was the first really good RTS. I played this game for hours and hours on end. It created so much in the RTS. There's so many games that have come out since then that have been really great games. And I just feel like it all stems back to this one game. Plus, Blizzard has made the Warcraft series into one of the most popular series of our time.
If it wasn't for Warcraft, we wouldn't have WoW as a feeling. We wouldn't have people addicted to the damn computer 20 hours a day playing WoW. So I can understand
well,
that.
That's arguable. Of course, without, you could say that without EverQuest. And this is why this list is hard, because there's so many games that go into that. But, I just feel like Warcraft, as a real-time strategy game, without WoW, that was the first one that I feel really made an impact on the society on real-time strategy games.
Interesting. Why not like Warcraft 2 or 3?
Warcraft 2 and 3, Warcraft 3 I feel isn't as great of a game as, even Warcraft 1 was. It was fun, but it really didn't bring anything more to the table for real-time strategy type games. It was just kind of I felt like after Warcraft, it was just the same thing, better graphics and longer and more things you could do. But really, I feel like it all stemmed from Warcraft.
Okay.
What is your
My top five?
Number 5?
Top 5 was a pain in the ass for me to do. I'll tell you that right now. There was about no less than 6 games that just off the top of my head that I had to look at and seriously consider. Just to put to this last spot. But I finally bit the bullet, and I'm picking Final Fantasy VII.
What?
Yes.
Final Fantasy VII.
Final Fantasy
What
VII.
are your reasons for Final Fantasy VII?
I looked at it. It's got a great soundtrack. It's got
But did the soundtrack not come from, Final Fantasy 1 had the same music.
Some of the same music, but not. It has a much bigger, much richer, much more fulfilling soundtrack.
Well, I feel like that just stems from the technology.
It stems. Well, I'm going to get to that. Yeah, it does stem from its previous, games in the series. However, I think it takes it to that next level. Almost every video game player knows One Winged Angel. That's like the greatest video game song ever made.
What is it?
Oh, I don't know Latin, dude. We don't want to hear us sing. No, it has characters that anybody off the streets can memorize. It brought role-playing games to the forefront of the video gaming world. Before then, it was rather a niche market, especially here in the United States, where a small group of fanboys, myself included, loved our role-playing we loved our Dragon Warrior, we loved our Lufias and the earlier Final Fantasies, but this game really took it to that next level.
Yeah, but in doing that, I feel like Final Fantasy is a game. It's not just it's a great game, but then it's also kind of the downfall of role-playing games for me.
I do think that it was at the same time the apex and the beginning of the end for role playing games. I mean, we're going to touch on that on later episodes, but yeah, it was definitely a watermark for that genre. And I think because of that, and the fact that it has a great story, it had good graphics for its time. Some of it hasn't lasted, and that was one of my biggest things I had to look at. The character development, all the things you could do. There was lots of options. Gold saucer, chocobos, Knights of the Round. I mean, there was just too much in here for me to ignore. And I had a really hard time, mostly between this and Final Fantasy IV, which is my personal favorite game of all time. But
this isn't a list for favorites.
This isn't our list for favorites, so I had to let that go. So that's my number 5.
So what do you have for number 4?
Number 4 is Street Fighter II Champion Edition.
Champion Edition?
Yes.
Why Champion Edition and not
Because I could play Bison and beat some ass. That one I put a little bit of bias on. Street Fighter II, really, there were fighting games before Street Fighter II. There was Street Fighter 1, for instance, which was crap.
Yeah.
There was Karate Champ. There was there was all these games that were before then, but weren't good.
Yeah.
Street Fighter II made it good, where people were addicted to the arcades again. It really started bringing people back for the first time in 10 or 15 years. It was the last great era of the arcades. And I think it had good gameplay, good balance of character that to this day anybody can pick up and say this is a smooth, well-polished game. I can't complain about it. Memorable characters, great moves, great flow, great music.
But do you not feel like some of that stemmed from Street Fighter 2? I mean, does it not? Just regular Street Fighter 2, it had the same memorable characters. It had a lot of the same flowing.
Oh, absolutely, and that's something I agree with you 100%. It comes back down to, I think Champion Edition took it and put a little bit more polish on it, and that's why it's here instead of Street Fighter 2. I mean, in the video game industry, you have that problem where people go, you have the original game, which, like I said, introduces a brand new concept, but then something comes along and makes it better. And I think this is one of those cases where I think Champion Edition made it a better game, and that's why it's on the list, and not the original.
Number 4 for me was Wolfenstein for the computer. The first real time.
On the PC gaming here.
It's the first on my list. I'll move on in, but it made first-person shooters what they are today. You fought Nazis in the.
That's always a cool thing to shoot a Nazi in the face.
What's wrong with fighting Nazis? It was really like the beginnings of the Maze-style first-person shooters.
But don't you think? To me, I always looked at Doom. On that genre, I looked at Doom as really the perennial forerunner.
But really,
Wolfenstein was before.
It was before, and I really felt like without Wolfenstein, Doom wasn't. Because I played Wolfenstein first myself, and I feel like a lot of other people did. And I think, it was huge in its day, and there was many aspects of that I think, and they put into Doom. Doom is a great game, and it's just another one that's on my list, or that would be on a list if it was top 100 games. But I feel like Wolfenstein should be on before Doom.
So Wolfenstein's better than Doom. I don't know if I can agree with that. Doom's got the better guns. It has a better atmosphere, better flow. Wolfenstein was the first, but we could sit here.
Well, there was a lot of first-person shooter games before Wolfenstein even, but I think like Wolfenstein was the first one. It spawned, the Dooms, the Quakes, the Unreals. These all really came from Wolfenstein, and I just feel like it was fun gameplay. The music wasn't the greatest, but on gameplay and for what it did for the market, I think that Wolfenstein 3D is a good choice for me for my number 4.
Okay, I wouldn't agree with it, but that's your list. That's the beauty of having 2 lists. Okay, my third best game ever made, Tetris. Several blocks, a well, eliminate the blocks. Simple, 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 addicting. This is video game crack cocaine, is what Tetris is. Everybody likes this game. 4-year-old girls in Thailand love Tetris.
Tetris is a game that, women and children and grown men can play. It is a fun game. I kicked around Tetris to put it on my list. This is a hard thing to do.
It's a very hard thing to do.
It's a addicting game. It's memorable music. It's, great gameplay.
Best thing to come out of Russia in 20 years. It's fucking great. they've made multiple iterations of Tetris. They made Tetris World, Pancake Tetris, Tetris
Well, and then
Attack.
you have the clones like Mario.
Yeah, Dr.
Dr.
Mario,
Mario
and Lumines really takes a lot of these new puzzle games take their cue from Tetris. But in my opinion, you can make all the extra power-ups and specials and add-ons and worlds. Tetris is still better.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree that Tetris is a very good game. My number 3 is Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail, that game ruled.
Who did not play Oregon Trail? The simple fact that this game was distributed with the Apple IIs to every elementary school in the country, in America. I mean, this game was played by almost every child that went to an elementary school in America in its time. I mean, the original was released in 1970 on teletype machines. Ooh. So it's been around for a long time.
Did you research there?
Yes. The game, you start off, you get to pick your profession, and then you go and you got to buy your goods to make the trip, and you have to have your ammo to shoot your bears and shit, and and then your people die. I mean, it was a game they let you play in school where, Susie and Grandma are going to fucking die. You might make it there, and you're just going to have to fend for yourself probably by the end.
Yeah.
I just believe that this is one of the greatest games of all time, and, everybody played it. Everybody knows Oregon Trail.
Just especially when I grew up in the 80s in school.
Yes.
I think the fact that this game was allowed and encouraged in school on its own, it merits a certain award. I can't really argue with it.
I mean, it had first-person shooter aspects. It had role-playing aspects. I feel like it was one of the greatest games. It was a beautiful, fun little game.
It's definitely a fun little game. I would like to see a remake made for that. I really would.
There's been more. I mean, there's I forget what number they're on, but in '97 they released a new one. And I mean, I think they've kind of let it go. And there was even Amazon Trail, which was one where you got to go into the Amazon and you're still on the same
so you like where you could pee in a river and those little things that float up your dick? Did they have that? I mean,
I don't know if they were that. They got that into it.
That would rule. But yeah, that's an interesting choice. God damn it, I can't make an argument against that. So Dose, what's
number 2? This game was hard for me to pick. I couldn't find much for it at first, and I thought it was a stupid choice. And then I was laying in bed Thursday, and it's like, you know what? This is number 2. It's Legend of Zelda for the NES. And one of the main reason that made me change my mind on it was the simple fact that you could save your game.
The first battery-powered option on console gaming.
I mean, that spawned from now you have the same exact setup. You type in your name, you save your game. Every video game now pretty much has that same exact little screen as Legend of Zelda had for the NES.
That's very interesting. I mean, what about the rest of the game, though?
The rest of the game, I mean, it's still a great game. It's still fun to play. The gameplay's awesome. The music is some of the most I think it's some of the greatest music in video game history. I mean, personally. It had a huge following. It was, hundreds of thousands of millions of people love this game. It had the gold cartridge, which was something new for NES. I mean, that was actually made by them. Because you had the black ones, but...
No, that was a tangent, and that's a whole other topic there. But yeah, the gold, that's still pimp. I mean, we have it on our damn set.
Exactly. Awesome. I mean, Zelda, it has to be on my list. Just the more I thought about it, the more it had to be up there, and it worked its way up to number 2.
Interesting.
What is your number 2?
My number 2 game, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Really?
Super Nintendo, yes.
Why would this be better than the original?
All right. See, it went back to my evolution revolution. Because originally, Legend of Zelda was number 2. So, and because it had the first true open range environment, everything like I said back in our first episode about Grand Theft Auto, it started with Pac-Man, but it really truly expanded to what it could be, what a game could really expand to with Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
Different environments. You had the coast, you had the mountains, you had the forest, you had everything. You had different environments.
Cemetery.
The cemetery was
the dungeons.
a pain in the ass. Where I think Link to the Past takes it that next step is it gives it a better story. It gives it 2 worlds and that interact flawlessly with each other.
Which has been done a million times since then.
Yeah, I mean, it takes its cue from the Link to the Past. The same awesome music that was in the original Zelda, remade, redone on the awesome sound chip that Super Nintendo has. I can't really it has virtually no flaws. It's a flawless game. It has, you can catch bugs. You can kill chickens and get your ass beat by them.
Yeah, it had a lot of
You can't get that in the original Zelda.
But the original, I mean, I just don't see it being better than the original, just because, I mean, the original, it was the first time you really saw those great open range environments where you could go anywhere you wanted and you had to figure it out on your own. I mean, the Link to the Past had that. I mean, you had to find your own way as well, but it just all stems from, the original Legend of Zelda for me. I don't know justifying that as the same level. I mean, maybe it is just.
Well, this is a case in point of why having two lists is a good idea, because we're talking about essentially the same game here. I mean, Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, not very different. You have, arguably the greatest, video game console hero ever going off to save and get some magic triangles so he can save his kingdom for altruistic reasons.
A helpless little elf man.
Yes. I mean, that starts off with Jack Diddley Squat and then ends up, becoming, an uber god. And it's a beautiful thing.
All for nothing.
All for nothing.
All for the love of the princess that
it's
not
even
know.
That. He never gets the princess. Mario gets to bang the princess on a daily basis. Link just kind of gets to sniff around.
Well, Mario loans her off to Bowser.
Well, yeah, that's a whole episode based on, I think that got some swinging thing there that's just crazy. So, but yeah, both games awesome, So okay.
What do you got
number
for
one?
What do you got for
No,
number
no,
one?
no, no.
I'm done. What do you got for number one?
Number one, Super Mario Brothers 3, Nintendo. That game fucking rules. It rules because it has great setup, great stages, great gameplay. It's a fucking movie made expressly for the purpose of showing you how badass Super Mario Brothers 3 is. I mean, there's flawless secrets.
I think you're just a graphics whore.
No.
Yes.
I picked a game from the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yes, but you're a graphics whore.
No.
My number one is Super Mario Brothers 1. It had it was the greatest game ever made.
That game is redundant though. Super Mario
Brothers 3 was just as redundant.
No. It was the first game to really put all the platform ice stages, fire stages, Super Mario Brothers 3, it is the best.
It had the ice stage in Super Mario Brothers 1.
Where?
Wait, not the ice stage.
No.
You had tree stages,
you had
water stages.
You had water
stage,
stage,
you had
the dungeon stage, you had overworld stage.
It was the first great platformer of its time.
Yes, I consider it the last great game.
Great music, and it's all, you wouldn't have the Super Mario Brothers 3 without, your baby Super Mario Bros. 1.
But Super Mario Brothers 3, okay, it's like, a 12-year-old's not going to run a 100-yard dash as well as, a 21-year-old man. It takes it that next step. I mean, I have nothing but respect for Super Mario Brothers 1.
Why didn't you pick fucking Super Mario 64?
Because I don't like that game. I think it's overrated. I think it's crap. Well,
it took it to that next step. You had all those different levels. It
wasn't as good. It didn't have lasting gameplay. Super Mario Brothers 3 has endless gameplay.
I mean, it is a great game.
You're more limited with Super Mario Brothers 1.
What?
You're more limited.
You are more limited, but that limiting of it makes it, I would still go back and play it. P-Wing's great. I mean, Raccoon's...
Hammer Brothers Suit alone proves my point. It's a better game. Hammer Brothers Suit.
That is great.
I mean, it's awesome.
But I just can't agree with you that... Super Mario Brothers 1 is just...
Super Mario Brothers 1's great, and there's kids in Ethiopia that have a copy of it, and they're trying to eat the chips out of it for food, nourishment.
It brought Nintendo into it made Nintendo what it is. Super Mario Brothers 1.
That was the game that brought it.
It killed Atari.
Atari killed Atari.
No, Mario Brothers killed Atari because you played Atari before you got a Nintendo. And you loved
but
it.
Atari made
and
8 million games in 1983, and they had 6 million systems. I mean, they're just like, those aren't exact figures. My point is that, Atari did a lot of stupid ass choices. In fact, Atari could have had Nintendo and blew it because one guy lost his lid over Donkey Kong. It's a fact. Super Mario Brothers I consider the last of the great old 70s to early 80s arcade games. I think that was the pinnacle. Super Mario Brothers 3 is the greatest platform, greatest game. Takes everything that was great about that old game and just said, we're going to make it better. And no game has came close to that, to making it as consummate as that. I mean, Miyamoto is a goddamn whackball, but he's a genius. I mean, that's all I can say. I mean, both for number 2 games.
I just cannot see putting Super Mario Bros. 3 before it's fucking original. The original. I mean, I'm not going to take it back to Mario Brothers.
Well, yeah. I mean,
which was in 3, which made it even better.
Once again, Mario Brothers and Hammer Brothers Suit.
I guess I have to bow down to you on this one.
You do.
Because Mario Brothers, I lose. Player 2, game over.
Player 2, game over. That's right. So all these are great games. I mean, you didn't listen to anything that made me disrespect you as a human being. And
Well, I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
I'm glad Curtis doesn't disrespect me.
Yes, I don't disrespect you, unlike Fuck Player 2. He disrespects you.
Fuck player 2. Fuck you, asshole.
Yes.
Don't fucking disrespect me on my forums.
You had these top 5 games. What were some games that you were looking at they were almost there, but just...
And there's so many games that I looked at and thought they should be there. I mean, you know, Dragon Warrior, Final Fantasy 1, Castlevania, which Castlevania is cool, but there's just not a lot.
That control scheme is really shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
3 hardest bosses of all time.
And I mean, it's not Castlevania is not one of my favorite games of all time, but it's not really one of the greatest games. It didn't do a whole lot for anything.
Ninja Gaiden ripped it off.
Ninja Gaiden did rip it off.
Yeah. So I don't know. Myself, it all came to I had a slew of RPGs. I had Final Fantasy IV. That's my personal favorite game of all time.
Final Fantasy X2 wasn't on your list? That would surprise the hell out of me.
No. Come on now. I didn't have a game past the PS1. Something about being getting a graphics whore. No. X2 is crap. 4 has my favorite soundtrack, has my favorite story. It's very fluid, a bit linear, and
is that what
wasn't as world breaking, I think, as Final Fantasy VII. That's the only reason I didn't put it on there. Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger was badass. Super Castlevania 4, if you want to call me a graphics whore.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that Symphony of the Night, I mean, that was my favorite Castlevania of all time.
Awesome.
But it took other things from all these other, I don't know, it just didn't make it to my list.
It was too derivative, and it was too easy, I think.
Yeah.
If you had the Cruciagram, the game's over. The little Wolverine slash blades, it's too easy. Now with Richter, it's a whole other story. But that was also a game that was around.
You can play with the Knight, too.
Yeah, the X9.
That's fun.
That was a really good game. If it was just a little harder.
Well, I mean, games have just gotten easier over time. And I mean, I think that's a big reason that, we didn't pick any new games.
Yeah.
I mean, my newest game was Warcraft. I mean, that's still from 91, so it's just...
Yeah, yours isn't new. Mine's newest was 96, and before that was 80s games.
Yeah.
Or early 90s with a couple of Super Nintendos. But, I looked at Vice City. Vice City I think, was a very great game. Very great game. I think San Andreas took it a step too far for the systems that they were running it on. 360, PS3, we'll see where that goes. But most of these games that come out today, I feel, are just rentals. They just don't captivate you.
I mean, there has been some great ones. I mean, I own Halo. I own Halo 2. I mean, that's fun. I mean, it's just those games, they don't add a lot to it. I mean, they bump up the graphics a little bit more. You get a few little extra things, like being able to, ride around in cars while you're shooting stuff and things like that. But these games don't add a lot to the future, other than graphics. And I guess that's the way everything's going, is towards better graphics and better graphics and better graphics. I just wish they'd add more gameplay, because I can go back and play Super Mario Brothers 1 still. I can go back and play Super Mario Brothers 3 still.
Anybody can. That's
and it's just, and you still have fun. Even the other night, we played for 2 hours.
Yeah, we played Super Mario Brothers 3 for 2.5 hours, and it was great stuff.
And I don't get bored with these games, and I feel like, once Halo 3 comes out, I'm not going to be playing Halo 2.
Yeah.
And it's just these games.
There's no retaining value in these games. These newer games that are coming out. Feel free, if you guys disagree with us on the, let us know on the forums. We'll talk about it. But I just don't feel these newer games hold up as well. They just, they've turned, into graphics and music and movie demonstration. But all right, that's our show. Before we go tonight, though, I'd like to give a shout-out to Sliding By at techtainment.net for the praise that he has given us on his site. We are very appreciative.
Yes, thank you very much. And also, fuck you again. Fuck you, Player 2. Fuck you, Player 2. That fucking asshole. He's the first asshole to hit our forums. Congratulations, and hope you stick with this. We need more of you.
All right. Thanks for watching the show. If you like the show, feel free to check us out at ransomtv.com/forums. Let us know what you think, whether you want to tell us to go fuck ourselves or we're the greatest people ever made. Make sure to buy yourself a Player 1 versus Player 2 t-shirt. They're very flashy and catchy. They just don't look like they came, look like they came from Hot Topic, but none of the dorkiness associated with it. And also, be sure to donate. We need support, and we want to keep this thing going, but we need you guys to do it for us as well. Pitch in. So for that, thank you for watching the show. I'm Curtis Mays.
I'm Ben Cornelius.
Are you?
I don't know anymore.
I don't know.
I'm Player 2.
Yes. No.
Dun 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 dun
Yes.
dun 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 Dun, 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 dun.